One of these questions that are making me to dive deeper into my own mind. Why the hell did I say that, right? So I love this.
Michal,
well known as the creator of FeliGrow.
I'm happy because something pleasant happened to me today. But we are referring in the moment to the emotional state. We are feeling good, we are feeling joy because of something, for example. But if we would say, am I happy in life? Or are you happy in your life? This meaning of the word happy is completely different.
Why this podcast? Why desire to?
Well, I'm observing you, I'm following your content, your journey. How about starting from with some metrics?
What is your burning desire?
I'm a little bit obsessed by this subject, and I really like it about me. I'm pretty crazy, and I'm kind of proud of it.
Tiny, young Michal with like the bushy hair, and I wanted to ask.
Some of it's still here.
Some of it, yeah. Some of it.
But I was always that little philosophical guy. The way is actually all we have. Feligrowth is
Climb up mountains in Poland, Slovakia, you was telling me Spain, Romania.
When we are surrounded by trees at least, or the mountains, our conversations kind of gravitate more naturally to the more meaningful ones.
So that's really, really cool right there, because that's really refreshing and different.
Why not to be positive? Why not to be kind? It's a win-win situation. I dream of having my work, which is my life, and I'm not trying to escape from anything to start living, because in this work-life balance concept, in this expression is hidden the message that work and life are two separate things. So for me, from this point of view, it's a myth. Each time we are thinking negatively about somebody else or criticizing them, saying something negative to them, there is a part of our brain which is not able to see the difference. It always see and hear the same concept, the same phrases pointed right on us. This is something that is called way of karma is working. The neuroscience seem to find the answer how at least a part of this karma in our brains can work.
This guest is absolutely fascinating. That is all I can say. Michal, going deep into mindfulness, gratitude, and happiness. Let's get into it right now.
Michal, I hear and see gratitude, mindfulness, joy, and just all these concepts. And I've been watching your content for, I think it's 6-7 months now, to be fair, to be like honest. And I've also read your gratitude handbook, the digital copy. And if the viewers are listening right now, make sure to read it. I'm going to make sure there is a link in bio. Make sure to read that fantastic book. And to ask you, Michal, to go more deep, to go straight into it, we are going to do something different. I want to ask you, why this podcast? Why desire to inspire podcast? Why did you accept my invite to appear on this podcast?
Sure. So first of all, Dilpreet, I wanted to thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm feeling really flattered and excited to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And so, well, I'm observing you. I'm following your content, your journey for at least the same amount of time as you mentioned. You are following mine. And obviously, I admire what you're doing. I think that your journey is pretty inspiring. I love the way you organize your work and the way you pursue your goal, your dream. And I find it extremely inspiring. Additionally, the positivity you share is something contagious. So, well, first moment I heard you propose the podcast, well, that was a little bit anxiety. In my case, it's quite obvious as an introvert in a situation when I'm in a spotlight, I'm always a little bit nervous. But in the same time, I was feeling I have to do this. I have to have this conversation with you as I'm sure it's going to be brilliant.
That's firstly, thanks for those kind words at the start. I am truly inspired by your videos, your posts. Every single time I feel a bit down, I normally look through my feed and I think what topics you're covering with gratitude, I think that helps me to just appreciate life so much more. So you are doing incredible work, and I thank you so much for coming on this podcast and taking the time to come on. And I just wanted to ask, can you tell the viewers, everyone who is listening, watching, thinking, maybe, can you tell them a bit about you and your journey?
Sure. So, how about starting from with some metrics? I'm a 30-year-old living in Poland, in the city of Krakow. I'm married, happily married. Let's add it because my wife could watch it one day. But the most important thing, well, all right, maybe not the most important, but I'm working in a regular job, corporate work. Let's not go into details, but this is just a regular corporate work. It's all right. It's pretty cool, but my passion is not there. My passion is right here, and by here, I mean the internet space. We're kinda in the moment, and in which I have this space to just put my passions into action. And well, I'm just a regular guy, which is extremely and unusually into the topic of happiness, fascinated by it, and just the guy who is willing to spend loads of energy, loads of time to dig into the subject, gather all the information that I find at least a bit universal or possible to apply in some other unique cases because each of us are unique, and turn the knowledge into the practical so-called tools, or as I like to call them, Feli tools, as you probably know. We'll get to that later. I hope so. But generally, this is it. This is the place where I can live my passion, which is the phenomenon of happiness, and which I'm approaching mainly from the perspective of psychology, philosophy, or practical philosophy, as I like to describe it. And well, all the areas that are related somehow to personal growth, to growth generally.
That's a great introduction, Michal, and I I I never knew you were 30. You were looking your 23, 24, 25 a bit.
All right.
So
That's
take that as
that's
a
pretty cool.
compliment, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, I get it a lot. I don't know why, but I guess in this age, it's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, you mentioned a bit about your career where you want to go more into. So I want to ask, what is your burning desire? What is your burning desire?
So my burning desire is to create something as I would describe as a system, as a system which could be, for example, an app and a platform, a website, or just some digital or non-digital products, which will be allowing people to truly, really, authentically implement all the knowledge into their lives. Because, well, we can watch, we can kind of drain the knowledge from wiser people than us. I'm not saying that I'm the one, but well, generally in the internet space, we have the possibility to drain the knowledge from the people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to permanently and effectively implement into our daily basis. So I want to find a solution for something like for this phenomenon and make all the happiness knowledge actually really possible to apply into our daily life and taking into account the unique cases of our lives, as all of us are unique, and the way to happiness also will be different. So that's pretty much it. That's making me sometimes even wake up in the middle of the night just to note something, some idea, some thought that I need to share. I'm a little bit obsessed by this subject, and I really like it about me. I'm pretty crazy, and I'm kind of proud of it.
That's so, so cool. I really liked how you went into that last bit. You are like obsessed, and people think that people think that if you have like obsession, you still need discipline. But if you are obsessed with something, you can't wait to work on it the next day and the day after that. So it doesn't really require discipline.
That's
And that's
brilliant.
great to hear.
All right. Totally agree.
Awesome. And I seen this post on your ins Instagram feed, and it was tiny young Michal with like the bushy hair. And I wanted to ask
Some of it's still here.
some of it, yeah, some of it. I wanted to just ask, did did you always have this vision when you was younger, or did it come a bit later on to go more into gratitude and mindfulness and all these like other concepts?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sure I'm finding into my old myself. Well, let's say when I was just a kid, some concepts that I wasn't naming in this way, but I was always that little philosophical guy who is thinking about some weird things, like philosophy questions. I was putting to myself. Even as a kid, I was just having the sensation that I'm thinking, well, I'm not really here and now on the ground. I'm rather with my head up, up in the clouds. I'm not sure if there's an expression in English like this, but generally, I was just thinking philosophically. And I've noticed that these thoughts was always around the same topic, and there was a day that come when I noticed that this subject is happiness. This is something that all the ways seem to lead in my head, because this is just something like the burning desire to get to know how to, well, be happy for my selfish reasons, obviously, too. And additionally, to help others to do that. I was always a guy who, well, I have done this personality test 16 personality test, and I'm an INFJ, which, according to the description, is quite often the case in which this type of personality is looking for some higher purpose to make some major impact on the world. So that's pretty much what I had all the years when I was living. It's just never for me, just doing just only something for me wouldn't be exciting for me enough to keep doing what I'm doing here on the internet space. So yeah, pretty much it.
That's very interesting. You mentioned about happiness. It is like a joy, and I think it feeds onto the next topic well. We speak about gratitude. We speak about like happy happiness, gratitude and happiness. We usually use those two words like interchangeably. So I wanted to ask you, what is the key difference between both those words? Rather similar, or is there a huge contrast between both those words?
On one side, gratitude, and on the other side, happiness. Many believe that they are the exact same, but in the next part, we try to challenge that narrative just a bit. This one is not to miss. We are diving even more deeper into it.
Sure. So the difference between those words is quite fundamental, at least in my understanding of these two concepts, because gratitude is a way to approach the state of happiness. So I totally get it why these two things can be very similar to each other, because the feeling of gratitude can be also understand as a form of feeling happy, right? So gratitude is generally it could be a feeling of appreciation of something, right? Or it can be understood as a tool, as a technique. We call it sometimes then rather it gratitude practice, which is allowing us to get get some benefits on it, as this exercise is extremely beneficial for our well-being. So for me, this is a difference, and it is that this is rather a way to achieve the happiness state. And something that has to be added here right away is the fact that the happiness word and the understanding of it is crucial here. So the happiness word is a word that is understood in extremely different ways. It's extremely polysemous. And just to see the difference, we need to know what we, in our unique case, are thinking when we are referring to happiness. What do we understand by it? And that's the basic reason why I've created something like my own definition of happiness. Not because, uh, this is not a sign of my arrogancy. For example, I'm not thinking that my definition is the only one that is the correct or something like this. Absolutely, it's not the case. This is only for practical reasons, because if I talk something, if I bother people all the time about something connected with happiness, it's quite useful to know what I'm referring to, right? Because we can say, for example, I'm happy because something pleasant happened to me today. But we are referring in the moment to the emotional state. We are feeling good. We are feeling joy because of something, for example. But if we would say am I happy in life or are you happy in your life? This meaning of the word happy is completely different, just basing on the context we are using it in it. So I've created something like what I've called a real happiness definition, and by real happiness, I'm always just referring to my understanding of this phenomenon.
I really like that saying real happiness. I like that saying so much. And I just wanted to ask with that definition, what what is that like called like about and where did that definition come from as well? Real
Well,
that concept.
it's great to hear that you have the positive emotions when you hear that, because I spend a lot of time on choosing the right expression between many others when I was deciding to, well, just choose the expression to which I'm going to refer maybe for years. So it's good to hear that the emotions that it evoke are positive ones. And well, actually, um, I think that it's a good moment to explain a little bit what is the real happiness concept. Actually, I have the definition. I have it prepared just to be sure that I will uh, that I will uh, cite it correctly. It's uh, it's something that is a little bit lengthy, but I included there all the most important concepts that are in the Feligrowth, in generally what I'm doing. And it goes like this. Real happiness is a state of being and affairs in life in which having meaning is all that is needed to attain it, and it is enhanced by developing two pillars, meaning pillar and experiences pillar. And I'm totally aware that this sounds very enigmatic, but this is rather a subject for, I don't know, something like a mini course at least, because there are things that this is the knowledge which I included in this shorty quote, um, which I was gathering actually for many years. And we could go at least a little bit by the elements of this definition. And by the way, I could just deliver the basic concepts that could be quite interesting, I think. What do you think?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
All right. So uh, let's start from the beginning. So three basic concepts included in the real happiness definition. So happiness is a state of being and affairs in life. This is a part which already can be quite non-intuitive, because as I've mentioned before, when we use the words we are normally using in our daily life, we can say like, I'm happy because something pleasant happened to me, for example, and we are referring to an emotional state in this moment. But what I'm proposing is perceiving happiness rather as a situation, rather as an environment we've managed to create in our life in terms of our internal conditions and external ones. And this approach is surprisingly beneficial. And let me explain why. Because when we are doing what we are doing on my profile, we are generally trying to approach the happiness state. And if we would be perceiving happiness as an emotion, we generally put the goal in front of ourselves, which is inachievable. Because, well, just give it a shot and try to set a goal to you to feel better in the moment. You theoretically, it can theoretically happen, but this generally out of our control. And it's even harmful to try to strive to feel good all the time. All the emotions, negative, positive, should be properly resonating in ourselves, and trying to focus to feel only the positive ones, which could be obviously nice, but actually quite boring, I think, for the long term. Um, it's generally impossible and even harmful. So if we want to focus on reaching happiness in our life, this definition is very important, because when we perceive it as a situation, as some things we can arrange in our life, outside or inside, then we make this goal actually achievable, real. Here's how we refer to the term real happiness. So that's a first thing. Second thing is the fact that uh, real happiness is a state of being and affairs in which having meaning is all that is needed to attain it. This is another part which is very important, but still a bit non-intuitive, because according to this definition, all that is needed to call ourselves happy is just to have any meaning in our life. And obviously, it could be anything. You can have a goal in your life to watch the whole YouTube, to watch all the videos that were ever posted. And this is kind of goal, all right? So, according to this definition, we can call this person happy. And it's not very intuitive, but there's a good reason behind it. And the benefit of this element of perceiving happiness is that if we can already call ourselves happy, if we kind of decide that we are happy, we drop from our shoulders, metaphorically speaking, the huge burden of the pursuit of happiness. Because in this way, we can create an environment, an internal environment in which there is just a better energy kind of to approach this state. And the mentioned positive emotions can come more easily. So in this moment, we are going straight into the third part, which can be quite tempting to raise right away now, because, well, somebody could ask, well, if we kind of all are happy because all of us has any goal in our life, well, what we are doing here, what I'm doing here, because, well, we're trying to approach the happiness state. So it's quite obvious that one happiness is not equals to other happiness. So first of all, we can have kind of deeper meaning and less deep meaning. For example, when we have this meaning of watching the whole YouTube, it cannot be compared to, for example, being a good parent for our kids, or making our dream come true, or for example, your goal. It's much more ambitious, it's much more exciting, and we can kind of feel that it's not the same to have one goal or another, one meaning or another. So this is a first part of the definition, a third basic concept. It is, we can enhance the real happiness by two pillars: meaning pillar and experiences pillar. So that's basically what we are doing here on my profile, and generally what I'm trying to do. I'm collecting the knowledge and turn it into practical tools, which are allowing us to work on this real happiness state, to make it even more deep, to make it higher. So working on two pillars. First pillar is meaning. This is what is the meaning in our life, or how many sources of the meaning we have. For example, it's a good strategy to have many sources of meaning in our life because, well, there are things that we cannot control, and one day we can just lose one of the sources of meaning in our life. So it's good to have other ones in order to not make the construction of our life fall in one day. So this is the meaning pillar. And the second pillar is experiences pillar. This one is intuitive one because these are all the pleasant emotions, pleasant situations. It's the lack of sufferance in our life, and working on this pillar and that pillar, on these two happiness pillars, is actually what we're doing. These are the goals of using the tools I gather here. But all right, I think that's enough on this subject. I think it's rather an outline, but it's not difficult. It's very simple, but it just needs some time to kind of get used to this not very intuitive way of perceiving happiness. This is just the way I found until now the most efficient to approach the happiness state. This is what I'm proposing, but there's a total respect in me for all the other ways of perceiving happiness, because if we have other definition, and well, I think that's more or less consciously each of us has different definition of happiness. That's absolutely all right. The definition, the understanding of it is perfect, is great if it works for you in your unique case. So this is just an inspiration. Somebody could take just a little part of it. Maybe somebody would like to take all of it. I'm just a guy who is presenting what seemed to be the best option according to to his unique perspective, trying to be as universal in this approach. However, total respect for all the other approach. Each is good if it works for you.
That's a really cool breakdown on all those methods and processes. And I think one question which we like audience are thinking right now.
I personally read this gratitude handbook a few months ago, and it is packed with so much value. It is backed up with credible sources. It is definitely absolutely worth the read, and I recommend you going to the description and downloading a digital copy free just below. And please, definitely let me and Michal, especially Michal, know your thoughts.
I think the people who are going in the journey, in the actual process, would that count as the state or getting, would that count as the situation or like the environment to getting into that state of joy, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. So being in the process, trying to achieve the set goal is definitely a way that we are doing, approaching the real happiness state. So when we are doing our best to just get to the place we just set, this is a meaning. This is a meaning in our life. So this is definitely something that is making our life more meaningful, so more brilliant, as I like to call it. So filled to a bigger extent by the real happiness definition. So definitely.
That's awesome. And I think that works well with a quote. I put this on my story yesterday, and it's by Chris Williamson. And he said, happiness like isn't like ha- happiness like isn't like achieving the thing, and it isn't about being rich. Rich is just like all about being just a bit richer than yesterday. So experiencing that joy, it doesn't come from getting the thing. It doesn't come from becoming rich. It becomes it where it comes from is it is all about becoming just a bit richer than you were yesterday. And that goes back to your point of you should value and appreciate and be in the journey more rather than focusing on getting a destination. Because I think it's, I think if you focus on the journey, that's how you grow better as well. And that's how you develop, and that's how you get more confident. Because if you were just focusing on the goal, you will say, once I reach that goal, I will be more joyed, I will be more fulfilled. But but then you set another goal, and then another goal, and then another goal, and then it's that constant state of you're trying to chase the reward rather than being in the pursuit, which you did mention just before. It's all about being in the moment. Would that be, would being in the moment be a way of gaining that state of joy constantly and consistently, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, totally agree with what you just said. This is brilliant insight because the way is actually all we have, and we will never have something like living in the future. So we need to live here and now. And the appreciation, the gratitude for this part of our journey is so crucial because without the appreciation, without being mindful about what is happening now in our life and staying mindful about every single step we do, well, we just lose something that we can never get back. And this is something referring to this very simple psychological concept of just feeling good if we are doing even simple, even small step towards our goal. Once we finish our day, we can see it as a success because we are just one step closer to even the Mount Everest. But I heard there is a mechanism in our heads which is very important for our well being, just to, well, have some goal in order to make this little step which brings joy. And it definitely entails the joy and the mentioned real happiness as well.
Well, this could be a bit of promotion just on my side, but I read your gratitude handbook, the digital copy version, and it's very fascinating to go through it. There's so much things which are backed up by all these sources, so it's very professional there. And if people are watching right now, I would definitely recommend looking at it, reading it. It's a great read. The link is going to just be in the description. But I wanted to ask you, Michal, about if somebody's thinking about getting that gratitude book from yourself, could you tell them a bit, could you tell them just a bit like about what it is and how it is contributing to fulfilling your mission and your goals?
Sure. First of all, I'm really grateful about your words. This is pretty amazing. You read the gratitude handbook. Really appreciate it. Once again, you can see that the mechanisms of gratitude are working quite good, at least now. It's not always like this, but generally, this is something we can program in ourselves. And this is basically what this ebook is about. I've packed it with something like a 10 years of using in practice this tool. There is a theory part in which we just go through all the necessary details in order to do this properly and just not wasting our time on it. Additionally, it has some motivational aspect too, because a proper motivation, as you perfectly know, is a basic just of each journey. So it's also kind of filled with the benefits you can have after implementing this tool into your life. Uh, Generally, there are tons of studies on this. So the gratitude practice is one of these tools which is extremely well confirmed by the science, so to speak. So what is special about this ebook is the fact that it not only includes the theoretic part, but also the practice. There is something that I've called a gratitude challenge. This is a 30-day challenge to which we received with the ebook a simple graph in which we just note if we've managed to just do one of the three basic gratitude forms during our day. And this is in a form of fun. We can just follow our progress. This is kind of in a game concept. There are levels that you get, the gratitude level that you get, and the whole point is to motivate ourselves during at least these 30 days to actually implement this tool and see how it works on us. After these 30 days, we can see the benefits. We can see also the habits, the grateful habits in our head, because this is the most important. The tools are not something that makes a difference to us. Actually, the habits of using these tools is something that is making the difference. So this ebook allows to program it kinda in ourselves and make the gratitude come to us effortlessly or kinda automatically based on the neuroplasticity of our minds. So really recommend to get the ebook as it's completely for free for the moment. All that is needed to be done is just subscribing my mailing list, and you just get the ebook for free. So it's about to change. I'm planning to start also come with a price for this ebook because I'm really convinced it's valuable enough. It's 70 pages, I think. I'm not sure how many, but it's a pretty vast one. So take take your time, but not too much. Just do this now. I recommend that because it can change in the future. And by the way, Dilpreet, I read your ebook too, and I find it extremely professional. I don't want to make this conversation too sweet, but I have to say this. It's from the technical point of views, and also the messages you've included there are very valuable and top notch. So total respect for that, by the way, too.
Yeah, for all of the audience who are watching, Michal just said, quickly grab that book and read it before it gets a price on there. Because I do believe a lot of people are benefiting from it, because who I've seen people who I've connected with, and they've had lots of good things to say, like about it. So make sure link is in bio. Make sure to read it. Grab a copy, free for now. So get to it right there. Yeah. And okay, let's go into something which I'm excited to go more into. FeliGrow. FeliGrow. You describe it just under the subject of personal growth, and you also show it as one of your brands as well. So I wanted to ask, how did FeliGrow start, and how does it contribute to your mission and your dream as well?
FeliGrowth is a basic concept of generally my activity. Well, this is also the name of my brand because this is connected to all I'm doing here. So basically, if we know the real happiness definition, the definition of FeliGrowth is quite simple because FeliGrowth is the personal growth, the approach to personal growth focused on approaching the real happiness state. So this is basically the personal development, which is thanks to all the tools I'm gathering, fairly tools as I like to call it. Uh, this is basically about approaching the real happiness state. So it contributes this contributes extremely on my journey because this is actually the whole meaning of the journey. This is the basic way of achieving the state of real happiness, which I just point as one of the main goal in our life, even the main one. So this is kind of way of approaching this main goal. So for FeliGrowth, this type of personal development I'm proposing and I deeply believe in, we have the Feli tools. These are just things like the ones we all know if we already are in the subject of personal growth. These are things, just to put some examples, mindfulness, gratitude, already mentioned, mind activity observation, friendly inner narration, but also there are some obvious things like rest or walk, physical activity, because these are the concepts which are contributing to the real happiness. So it's not always something that, well, you never heard before. I love obvious things because these ones are the easiest to miss and just not doing it because we assume, well, all right, I know, I agree with that. But the fact that we agree with something doesn't mean that we really implement it into our life. So that's what FeliGrowth is too all about, to really implement it. So that's where the need of creating something like a system which is allowing it efficiently come up once again.
One more thing, I really like the name as well. How did you come up with that name for the system right there?
That's so good once again to hear that you like the name. As once again, I was thinking about it for quite a long time to choose the right one. Well, I think there is an English word like felicity, which is also a way of describing happiness, but it comes also from a Polish word, which is felicitology, and this is a branch of philosophy which focuses on approaching happiness in life. I think in English there is no translation of these words. At least it doesn't sound in the same way. But felicity, or maybe I'm making some mistake now. Generally, feli is for happiness, and grow is, well, for grow. So the connection of these two things seemed to be quite a good choice.
Yeah, that's just nice to see how you came up with that name as well. I just wanted to double check because it is something which you remember as well. It stays on the top of your mind. FeliGrow. So it's perfect. Good choice.
Great, great. Once again, thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, I see your stories a lot on Instagram and TikTok now as well. And I think it was when we had our introductory call, I there was a story you put on a week or two back where you was climbing on top of mountains, and I can see I can see that you climb up mountains in Poland, Slovakia. You was telling me Spain, Romania, and I think you did mention, and correct me like if I'm pronouncing it wrong here, but it was Tatas and Fagaras. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Tatra Mountains and Fogaras Mountains in Romania.
Fagaras. Yeah. So that's the way to say you're right there by me. And I just wanted to ask, does climbing up mountains, does surrounding yourself in that much nature, does that serve as a creative, just as a way to escape reality? And one thing I like also seeing on your stories was the power of regeneration concept. Does that apply to this in terms of the nature as well?
Sure. So generally for me, spending time in the nature, especially in the mountains, is a natural, intuitive way of regeneration. It wasn't always like this in my case. I wasn't really aware of the fact how it is working for me. But generally, well, there are scientific research which shows that spending time in nature is just healthy and good for our well-being, and that's the first thing. But for me, it's quite easy to get there somewhere. It doesn't really matter where it is, but it's good if it's high. For some reason, it attracts me. Uh, it is for me just a way to regenerate in the most efficient way. And it has many other benefits behind it too. Well, for me, just surrounding by aesthetics of nature and the mountains brings some calm to me. I think that it's just extremely relaxing in my case. So the power of regeneration can be felt by me in this concept in the most intense way. So definitely spending time in nature has other benefits for me because normally I'm doing it with somebody. This is normally the most often this is my wife, my friends, my parents. And I also see that for some reason when we are in the nature, when we are surrounded by trees at least or the mountains, our conversations kind of gravitates more naturally to the more meaningful ones for some enigmatic to me reason. But it applies also to the real happiness concept of relationships, the importance of relationship in our life. So it contributes to, by the way, by a total accidents, to just straightening the bonds between us. And I find it also very beneficial from this relationship point of view too. And the power of regeneration generally, this is something that is so easy to overlook when especially when we have a set goal and we want to get there, well, as soon as possible because we have this burning desire. I'm talking to myself. So this is very important, especially in this case, to not neglect this area of rest because, well, it's a pretty well-known concept, but let's say it because that's the obvious that needs to be reminded all the time. Rest is something that we all need because without the rest, we have no energy to do what we actually want to do. And this is quite easy to neglect, and this is extremely harmful also for our results. I like the example of our heart. I don't know if you heard that our heart actually more rests than works, because in the microcycles, it has more time for breaks than for the actual functioning, for the working. So it is doing many micro breaks, and it seemed to be working all the time, right? But it's turned out that even our heart, which seemed to be one of the most uh, hardly working organ, seemed to be resting all the time if we look into it. So maybe that's an inspiration. That's the power of regeneration. We should all look into it often enough.
That's really fascinating there because it isn't just nature doing it for joy, but it's also got a lot of benefits for your health and your like. I think it can go more into like spiritual level as well, being in that kind of space and environment, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, also, this is always a time in which I have the possibility to use the tools like breath meditation, mindfulness, which is mindfulness is basically just being here and now as much as possible. So it's it's even more pleasant. It's even more beneficial if we are in the place which is well nice to us, which is featured by the aesthetics we like. So it's also a spiritual always experience for me, which I found very important in my spiritual nature.
Talking just about spirituality, I think with gratitude, there's a lot of spiritual teachers. Like, I think Sadhguru, he's a big one right at the top. So I wanted to ask, who are your role models within this niche, within this space?
So I don't really have any one specific role model. I'm deeply aware of how unique our cases are, and I like to focus on, well, um, draining the inspiration from all the people around. So it can be sometimes positive example, sometimes negative one, but we always can learn from others about happiness, because we all wants to be happy, and we are trying to do this in different ways. So that's pretty inspiring. But obviously, I have famous people out there who are extremely inspiring for me. So the Sadhguru you've mentioned is one of them, definitely. There are other spiritual guides like Eckhart Tolle, Muji, which are presenting things in a way that are very convincing to me and inspiring. There are also people from the personal development world, let's say like this, like Tommy Robbins, for example, and many others. There are people also who are not actually into the personal development world, not directly, but they are sharing some insights of it, like Jim Carrey, for example, or Will Smith. Their insights are brilliant, and well, I'm focusing on inspiring from all the people out there.
That's really good. You mentioned those names, Jim Carrey and Will Smith, because they wouldn't, you wouldn't really regard them as professional, full-time personal development coaches, speakers, because they're more like they have their own films, they're famous for having famous movies and so on. So it's really interesting to see how people, and I think it can branch onto people who play in sports such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, those type of people, they they might not have went into the philosophy of personal growth. They have learned lessons during their careers which can help different people. And I think that's something which I am doing right now. My dream is to become a motivational speaker with this daughter. And the main people which are in this niche are Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty, people like that. But I do also listen to other people like Muhammad, like Ali, Mike Tyson, Cristiano Ronaldo, like all these people, because they communicate in a different way, they speak in a different way, and they have all went through challenges which which are different to everybody else. So that's great. You mentioned about the people who you look at, not just within the gratitude space, but also in like other areas as well. That's really, really cool. And yeah, let me ask you, what is your favorite quote? What's your favorite quote which you have heard somebody say, which which has always stayed in your mind and you repeat it every single day to just keep on going?
Well, on my profile, I'm sharing loads of quotes, and I don't really have one single one who is the most convincing for me, who has, I don't know, grabs all the knowledge that is needed out there. There are many, many great quotes, brilliant quotes, which are extremely inspiring and which can be implemented into our lives and to have that can have a major impact on our life if we actually implement this knowledge. So, well, just an example. Uh, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this correctly now because I will freestyle, maybe rephrase this quote. Uh, that the happiness is like a butterfly, so we cannot hold on to it too much because we can just smash it. It's definitely not the way it was put in words there, but the uh, catching of the butterfly is the goal itself. And additionally, we cannot try too hard because it needs to be natural, it needs to be joyful. This is pretty inspiring. This is one of the quotes which inspire me very much, but there are many, many others. And well, check out my profile, all folks. There are plenty of quotes focused exactly on happiness. So there's load of it.
Definitely check out his profile. It is like awesome, and he and Michal is saying the right thing. There is so much quotes there about even like I wouldn't be able to pick one. So he's absolutely right there. Awesome. And I want to ask a bit about if there is a quote which you have made, which you would like to share, a quote which you have created, which you like to share, because my quote is to procrastinating. So when you want to procrastinate, delay procrastinating, delay doing that bad thing. For for example, if it's binge watching a TV show, delay it until you do the work which you were meant to do and then use that as a reward. So it's procrastinating, and it's turning it just on its flipping it around there. So I wanted to ask, have you got a quote which you have made, which is unique to you, which you would like to share?
Sure, I've heard this quote about procrastination. I really love this. I don't have prepared any specific quote of mine. I have some ideas, some thoughts that I'm sharing sometimes. I don't have anything specific in mind. Instead of real happiness is not uh, an emotional state, is a state of affairs, state of being, state of affairs in our life. This is the basic concept to which I'm referring all the time. So this is the only one which I think I can refer to now. Other one maybe it is about happiness. Is uh, people are unhappy because they are holding to things which they cannot take with them, um, which 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 cannot last forever. It refers just to the fact that, well, intuitively, we can put too much attention to our possessions, to our material part of the world, but the inside, the internal world is something that, well, especially for more spiritual people who are believing that there is something more about after death. It is more secure way to invest in our internal world. Is more secure way to achieve the happiness in more permanent way. Well, there are many other concepts, and obviously, I cannot figure out anything more. I I make sure to have something in mind for the future.
Those two quotes are great, and I want to circle back to them just a bit later on in the podcast. And one thing which I've noticed is, and this is just by my perspective, like when I watch your videos on your stories and so on, but you seem really positive. And I just wanted to ask, because you did say you work and you like also do this and you are also learning, improving, spending time with family, getting better and so on. So I wanted to ask, would would something called a work-life balance, would that thing be real or is it just a myth?
All right, so it's good to hear that you have the sensation I'm a positive person. That's great to hear. I can say the same about you once again. I think that being positive is the gift we actually not given only to the others, but also to ourselves. So this is a win-win situation, and it happens. I'm lucky enough that this is quite natural for me. It wasn't always like this. Definitely, I was much more negative person. I think that on my way of growth, I've noticed that, well, there's nothing wrong. It can happen because you are positive. At least I didn't encounter such a situation. So why not to be? Why not to be positive? Why not to be kind if it seems like it's a win-win situation? And referring to the work-life balance, well, I don't really like this expression because it includes, it contains an assumption that our life is not a part of our work and our work is not a part of our life, that these are two separate things. I dream of having my work, which is, well, my life. And I'm not trying to escape from anything to start living. Because in this work life balance concept, in this expression, is hidden the message that work and life are two separate things. So for me, from this point of view, it's a myth, but I totally get it. I totally get the concept is obviously beneficial if we try to, well, keep the balance between something negative and positive. It's always not a waste of our time and effort, but the concept itself, it's not what I'm really fond about.
To be honest, I've never heard of that response before, but it does make a lot of sense, because why can't they both be similar? Why can't they both be the same? Why do they have to differ completely? Because I think when I become like when I become the motivational speaker with this Dr. When I'm on stage, I think both of those things will be the same, work life, because it will be the dream. I'm achieving the dream, so then that will be my life. So that's definitely a great perspective. I've never heard about before. So thanks for sharing more in regards to that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And yeah, you did mention a bit like earlier on in your life, you was a bit negative. So I wanted to ask what caused that shift? What caused that shift to make you go more positive and become the version who you are becoming now?
That's a very good question, for which I don't have any answer that already popped in my head, and that's because this is a very good question, because it kind of forced me to look into myself a bit deeper. But I'm sure this is connected with some practical things, like I was just behaving in that way, be more negative. For example, complaining, which is our national sport, by the way, and criticizing others, feeling, I don't know, even feeling better because I was better in something. And it was criticizing others is actually always um, a way of making ourselves feel better, so it can be intuitive. Because if we criticize somebody else, for example, in our thoughts, we doesn't have to do this aloud. We criticize, we think negatively about somebody else. This is kind of compliment for ourselves, because, well, he's that, so I cannot be like that, because I'm just saying he's doing that or this in a negative way. It cannot apply to me, because I wouldn't be pointing it out. But in practice, it's the opposite. Very often, we are seeing the um, negative aspects of others. Our own negative things we are seeing the most in other people. So I think this was the mechanism that was working in my head. I'm referring now to many years ago when I was teenager, especially. But on my way, nothing actually spectacular happened. There was no turning point. This was just a way of growing, on which I've noticed that there are benefits of changing this attitude, of becoming more positive. For some reason, it stick to me to this till this day. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm positive all the time. But the most important thing, as always, is just keep working on that and making it real more and more each day, step by step.
So that's really, really cool right there, because that's really refreshing and different, because you weren't being negative in regards to like of the people. So saying things to them, you were being more negative to you. So because you were criticizing people, like as you were just said, it made you feel you're better for a short period of time, or because you judge like of the people, it made you feel you're better. So that's really fascinating, because when people normally say they were negative in the past, they have normally done something to somebody else. But yours was all like to you. So your mindset, your mentality. So it wasn't causing no conflict or nothing with like the like external. It was more like the like internal. That's a really that's something I don't hear much. So that's really, really fascinating right there. And it's good that you develop that just that attitude to shift to be more positive. And was there any like was there any like influences? Was there somebody who you watched on TV on YouTube that made you change your perspective and be more positive?
I think I cannot point out one specific person once again. However, I remember one thing that I learned. This is some neuroplasticity, neurobiological fact. There is a part of our brain which is not able to distinguish, to differentiate things we are saying to others from the ones we are saying to ourselves. So each time we are thinking negatively about somebody else or criticizing them, saying something negative to them, there is a part of our brain which is not able to see the difference. It always see and hear the same concept, the same phrases pointed right on us. This is something that is called way of karma is working. The neuroscience seem to find the answer how at least a part of this karma in our brains can work. So each time we think you are stupid, we are saying to ourselves, well, I am stupid. And we are feeling like this. And it's hugely impact our well-being, our self-confidence. We kind of get a payback, an instant one. So this is one thing that I think that might influence me big time.
That's another cool way you've broken it down there because that I think that goes more into manifestation and visualization a bit, right?
Yeah, that's also the same mechanism. The manifestation, visualization, these are also things that are have a impact on us just by our actions. So that's a good comparison.
Yeah, that's a good point to be fair. I just wanted to ask, do you normally manifest and visualize a certain like success point or situation or something like that daily, or how does that work in regards to manifestation and visualization and your experiences to that?
Yeah, so manifestation and visualization are not the points on which I'm focusing, as I think there are so many already, people who are better in this subject than me. So I want to focus on my approach, on my way. However, manifestation and visualization are also tools, once again, for the real happiness. So I totally agree with the concept. For example, the visualization for me, I'm not doing it regularly, but there was a time when I was doing it while I'm going to sleep. When I'm falling asleep, I'm just visualizing. I'm just visualizing. Sorry, I have the problem with this word. Definitely, I visualize. Some future scenarios I want to happen because, uh, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but let's not find out. Let's just use it, and I can only profit from that. I think it makes a lot of sense that the visualization can be powerful, and it's quite pleasant thing to think right before falling asleep. So it's happening sometimes intuitively. The dreaming part is a way of visualization, and in the same time a tool which I believe can have a significant impact. Well, we'll see how it's gonna work.
We will definitely see, definitely. Yeah. Awesome. I think I started doing it a bit more, manifestation, visualization. I think it's trying to not just envisioning myself, but I sometimes what I began with at the start of this year was like a 2024 vision board with like different celebrities. So I got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson for consistency, Kevin Hart for motivation, Tony Robbins for redemption, Gary Vee for like the excitement. And I just got all these celebrities on this mood to board. And sometimes when I feel like I am not in the moment, or when I feel like I'm feeling a bit more down, or when I feel like I'm turning back into my past self, I just try to think of how they would like, what like actions they would take and try to incorporate it a bit more into my day. But it's sometimes difficult because let's say let's say let's say that I am doing some work. I can't just sit down, close my eyes for like a few minutes and visualize that, because people will be going, "Why don't you do the work and so on?" Sometimes I do it and I get away with it, which is fine. But I think it is the mind. I think it's so focused on distractions. It's so focused on going on social media. When I was doing this podcast before I actually started this podcast, like I was thinking about something which doesn't matter, and something like this event which is coming in 2-3 weeks time. So I'm thinking, why am I thinking about it now when it's 2-3 weeks away, and things may change, right? And it's all this. I think that's something which I'm trying to pick the moments, catch myself when I'm feeling low or when I'm doubting myself, because as you just said 5-10 minutes ago, we can't be positive in every single second. There is nobody who's positive, who's motivated every single second. Nobody, even someone like Gary Vee or Tony Robbins, they aren't positive all the time. Like even like comedians and so on, those kind of people, like even billionaires and stuff, they ain't positive all the time, because there's always moments which come into our life where we feel a bit down, or we feel a bit deflated, or we start questioning ourselves, and we go, like, I've been going at this for this amount of time, but I can't see too much progress. But then when I catch myself doing that, it is normally on the short term. So what I've done last week. But if you compare yourself as with, if you are better than who you were last year, that is where the growth comes from, and that's where you get that confidence and the belief. And I was speaking to Jordan Hogg, who was my first ever podcast guest, and he spoke about having the lightest faith. If you have 1% faith, nothing will stop you from achieving your dream or getting after a certain goal. And it just this manifestation, visualization, but I'm going to try doing it before I go to sleep, because the mind, it is addicted to distraction. So I'm trying to quiet the mind down more. Is there like any tips you would give in regards to being in the moment more?
Sure. So, just referring to what you just said, it sounds like a great tool of manifestation. So I'm really inspired by your words. So thank you for this. Well, one thing I wanted to add is that there is a phase of functioning of our minds, which is called alpha phase, and it is highly active, especially when we're going to sleep, and even more when just after waking up. So I heard this is a perfect moment for all the stuff like manifestations, visualizing the rest of the day, which is actually the way of manifestation I'm doing the most. Just after waking up, I'm answering myself. I'm given an answer to the question, what do I want from this day? And I kind of visualize it. And I find it really effective. I see like I actually kind of set the mood from these first minutes, first moments of the day, even before I open my eyes fully. I'm actually doing it before the snoozes of alarm. I feel the programming process when I'm just thinking, well, what I want to do, what is the most important for me, how do I want to feel, and well, others think like this. And this is just something I wanted to just put on the top of that. And referring to be more in the moment, well, this is generally a vast subject of mindfulness, which has many forms. For me, this is just a way of being more here and now. There is a way of doing mindfulness, which is a body scan. Probably you've heard about it. You just focus on different parts of your body, one after another, and trying to feel each inch of your body. And well, there's where all the magic is. After that, you just feel better, feel here and now, which is highly beneficial also in point of view of scientific research. So I like to do mindfulness also as in a form of um, observing our thoughts, observing our thoughts as clouds in the sky. This is very common comparison. Just simply observing, not going into it, not trying to change it, not trying to get into discussion with them, simply observing the thoughts in the mind, and additionally letting them fully resonate, because suppressing our thoughts, emotions is not making any good. A part of mindfulness for me is also just simply observing the thoughts and emotions, getting to know myself better, by the way, in this way. And this is just a way of relaxation and getting more into here and now in the positive way.
This question's just a bit different, but what have you seen or noticed, which is the biggest disruptor to people feeling gratitude or people having more mindfulness or people experiencing more joy? What is the biggest disruptor or distraction towards both concepts?
Yeah, that's another good question. Well, in our social media world, this is so obvious fact that we are distracted all the time. So, for me, a habit of not having my internet connection on my phone is something that I cannot imagine living now. To be honest, I have no notifications except from the communications from messenger, where I just can wait for somebody. Well, that can be quite something urgent, but the most urgent things are reserved just for the call form. So if I don't receive a call, I don't feel that this is something urgent, and because of that, I have always the internet connection turned on, turned off on my phone. And in this way, I grab my phone when I want to grab it, not when it wants to grab me. This is a key difference. So this is definitely one of the biggest disruptors of applying any tools, especially the ones which seem to be boring, like just sitting and feeling the moment. Well, it's much less exhilarating than just grabbing the phone, scrolling, and see all the amazing stuff are there in the world. So the concept of just avoiding the temptation to get into some flashy things. We can be surrounded by all of this information. Is very important to actually implement the tools.
I absolutely, definitely agree with you because not not just for myself, I feel distracted, but also my mom and my grandma, who are more upbeat, like older generation, who didn't really have the mobile phone when growing up, like the touch, the touch screen ones we have now. And like I thought they would have just been, they could have resisted they could have resisted the temptation, but I see them scrolling, going on videos, and that's just incredible. The reason why is because in those times when they were born, no one really had phones like all the time or nothing like that. And right for because their minds would have been more because more in regards to traditional times, I thought they would have been more like able to resist it, but they are worse than me. Go win on this phone. So it shows it isn't just to this generation, it's to the like older generation. There's like a social media like addiction. And with my mom and my with my mom and my grandma, they don't go on social media to text people and so on. They just go on there to watch videos. But 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 they still are just addicted to it. So that's really that that just shows you the magnitude of this disruptor, this big distraction. And I think that's definitely a great way to go about it. Like being careful what you allow notifications on, turning off the internet connection. And I think I heard somebody say before, just put in your phone like in a different room so that you don't have to go on it and so on. So incredible, insane.
Yeah, totally. And well, I would just add that, well, there is nothing wrong in using all of this technology, right? But it is always a question how much we truly want to use it and how much it is using us, right?
That's it. And I believe you mentioned a quote like earlier, something about grabbing the phone. Could you mention that quote once more or say that quote once more? Something about not grabbing the phone when you want to grab it, but grabbing it. Something like that.
Right.
I think, yeah,
Well, it's important to grab the phone when we want to, not grab it, not letting us. Sorry, that's the point now. In English, it's more difficult for me. So basically, it is about not grabbing the phone when it wants us to grab it, but grab it when we truly want to do this, right?
that quote is just brilliant and awesome. Awesome. Make sure you guys watch should write down, note it down, save it, bookmark it, record it, because that's simple yet effective.
Flatters.
So, yeah, it is the truth, right? So that's how it is. And I think it will make a big difference. So best to mention it, save it, bookmark it, make sure to maybe rewind the last 20 seconds and watch it again. I think that would be perfect.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah, there was something I seen. You had a unique degree at university. Could you just speak more in regards to that? Because I was shocked and surprised when I heard more about this degree.
Yeah, so I have an engineer's master degree in something that is called spatial economics. And it's pretty funny because I'm not doing absolutely nothing connected to it, but I don't really think this is a very, very, it's quite often, unfortunately, at least where I live. So this is basically these are the studies about design of a city. Let's say like this. This is basically planning the city, the public spaces, and digging through and preparing all the necessary documentation which is behind it. So I like to see this time in my life of studying it as well. I see it as I've studied accuracy, attention to details, learning skills, and organizing the knowledge, the information, make the synthesis of it, which is actually what I'm doing right now in my passion area. So I don't perceive it as a waste of time, even if I'm not using almost any skills I've learned there. But I'm really happy that I had this time in my life. Also, because I've met so many friends. I'm still in touch. It was also a time not only of learning. It was also just a fun, like in this time of life. So really appreciate this experience, and I see many things I use actually that I've gathered through these studies, even if it's not technically the same things I've learned them.
Yeah, like I definitely wanted to mention that because the name of the degree sounds like the most coolest degree you can ever get.
Yeah, it sounds like this. That's
Like
the point. I think it could be the point why I did choose it, but well, in this time when I was taking the decision, I wasn't really convinced what I want to do in my life. Something in the middle of these studies, I decided that it's probably not what I want to do, but I have this something in my nature which makes me finish the task I started. So here I am after these studies, and it was pretty cool to experience all of this stuff.
We all have a life changing event, one life changing event in our life which forces us to come back and to shift our actions and the narrative. However, this next answer surprised me so much.
I very much want to hear your response to this because this is the first time, like ever, one guest or one podcast guest or just any like individual I have like ever met in my life who has said they had no turning points in their life. So would you be able to expand more in regards to that?
This is one of these questions that are making me to dive deeper into my own mind. Why the hell did I send that, right? So I love this. Um, I think I might subliminally, subconsciously refer to the concepts that I think we can notice in the social media or anywhere in the world, that people who have a good story are attracting attention. Well, this is obvious, right? Story is something we people love. This is attracting, and it's kind of convincing us that this person um, just deserves our attention. And I think that I was referring to this concept. I was trying to be honest with myself and with you that I don't have any spectacular turning point, which could be my assets as the form of the story behind me. And this is a good moment to just put this statement that I think I want to give here, that uh, we don't really need to have any, I don't know, traumatic experiences in life. We don't really have to, I don't know, come from the extreme poverty to extreme wealthy to have something valuable to share with the world. This is something I think we should acknowledge consciously, because well, the story, it's great to have, it's naturally attracting, but it's not something that is um the only reason why we should be listening to somebody. That's not that important. Yeah, but actually I could point out something like a turning point in my life, as you mentioned, more negative Michal to more positive Michal. It was just not that spectacular. Or I was extremely shy person. I'm generally rather an introvert, but doing what I'm doing right now is definitely something I wouldn't imagine I would be able to do. So it's kind of already my dream coming true, that I'm able to be in a spotlight like here in this podcast. So there are maybe some uh, smaller turning points, maybe less spectacular, but it doesn't really define the body, right?
Thank you, Michal. I do appreciate you coming on here. There's so much incredible takes. There's mindfulness, gratitude, happiness, and it's just incredible because I did mention to you before that you was planned to be in my original 4 guests, but I was waiting for the right time, the right moment, and this felt like the perfect time, the perfect moment to have you on. And this podcast absolutely delivered, because we went deep on positivity, we went a bit into negativity, we went into coping with social media addiction, and I really like the work you are doing. I really like that gratitude digital book as well. So make sure you guys who are watching right now, I'm going to make sure the link is in bio and in the description. Before I finish off and promote all your platforms, is there something else you would like to say to to everybody who is watching me?
Cool. From my part, I wanted to thank you once again, Dilpreet, for inviting me for this talk. As I was sure about, it was incredible, and I found this time very developing as well. So I'm extremely grateful. Once again, the gratitude for this invitation here, and I think we had really good talk. And well, if somebody uh, has reached this moment of this podcast, I'd like to thank him or her so much too.
That's just brilliant. And I just want to say, if you want to follow Michal, or sometimes it's FeliGrow, platforms. Make sure to follow him on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well, right?
Well, I'm planning to get on YouTube, but not yet. Well, that depends on when the podcast will be published. But there is a plan. For the moment, Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. Instagram and TikTok, make sure to follow Michal. And also, I'm going to attach the link to the gratitude handbook just in the link in bio and in the description as well. Thank you, Michal, for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you once again from my part too. Thank you so much.
And that is all we have time for. This was a unique episode where we went more into positive subjects. Be sure to follow Michal with all the links below and in the description. And that is it. Episode 7 done. Soon. I really had to do that because that was the occasion for it. Episode 7 done. Soon. Shoot your shot.